I once had a father. Once I had brothers. Once I had a legion. Now all I have is hate. But my hate shall swallow the stars themselves, before it is sated.
The civil war for humanity's soul rent a once proud species into bitter infighting. As corpses of kinsmen piled high atop untold worlds wrought by merciless fathers, thousands of orphaned Astartes carved a path of their own devising, with no oversight from Emperor nor Warmaster. For today, we shall elucidate the downtrodden outcasts of the Horus heresy, caught in the middle of a war, forcing many to uphold their ideals at the cost of defecting from their kin. The bands of hate-filled renegades, the Black Shields. Following the era of the Great Crusade, humanity stood upon the precipice of greatness. Horus Lupercal, War Master of the Imperium and chosen son of the Emperor, embarked to unite the last remnants of the galaxy not held under his father's sway, with legions of Astartes spearheading the advance. It was a time of prosperity, dominance, and strength never before seen, as a fertile expanse promised glory and eternal peace should mankind shed its reliance on superstition. Yet at the height of its power, the Imperium was torn asunder, Horus Lupercal betraying his father, his kinsmen, and humanity entire. Yet arguably, those who suffered the most were his own sons who still held true to the master of mankind's ideals. Purged during the Istvan Free betrayal alongside their comrades of the Emperor's children, World Eaters, and Death Guard legions, the Sons of Horus commit the largest fratricide ever seen by humanity. Those that survived lived to witness more acts of atrocities to their cousin legions, the shattering of the Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard during the Dropsite Massacre of Istvan V, adding to the traitors' tally of deception, treachery, and betrayal. Each that fled such devastation formed small bands of warriors, joining forces with myriad other fragments of once noble legions in order to enact revenge against their former comrades in arms. Though many loyalists would seek out their genekin, others chose not to, the righteous souls of traitor stock unable to return to the fold of their primarchs without denouncing their allegiance to the Imperium. Alone, far behind traitor lines, these orphans of catastrophic warfare convened, organizing into warbands far from the Emperor's light, who would no longer fight under the banner of capricious liege lords. They would fight for themselves. Most knew that their toil would never be heralded nor recorded within the annals of Imperial history, yet they would bleed, fight and die for their beliefs. Whether reviving their heraldry of old, such as the Dusk Raiders of Malinke's Fall, or redacted sightings of defaced midnight-clad warriors upon the killing fields of Istvan Free, none can conclude the original warband to establish such a creed. Outcasts, forgotten heroes, merciless tyrants, and remorseless strategists, these idiosyncratic Astartes devised surgical strikes to cripple traitor lines as they continued to amass strength for 7 years of devastating civil war. No two members of each warband were armed with the same weapons, many forsaking their specialization or legion-assigned roles as they scavenged war zones of equipment to wield. Relying on the ancient martial traditions of Terra's ancient past, each Astartes removed their iconography of their legion of old, whether caused by loss of allegiance, bereavement of their primarch, or estrangement from their kinsmen. These Stygian warriors were an ill omen for any who beheld their visage. Outcasts of both loyalist and traitor lines, none would stay their hand, their mission to defend the Imperium or pillage its carcass, driven by mutually assured destruction. Bonded not by blood shared, but shed in battle, these warriors transcended the fealties of genetic lineage, the first confirmed sighting of a Black Shield Astartes during the climactic battle of the liberation of Numenal, heralding a new era of human infighting. For every Astartes battling for survival or revenge, one could be found merely rampaging to vent their despair, the anarchic rabble of such purposeless space marines proving difficult to command. A fell mirror to the shattered legions of the Dropsite Massacre. While such loyalist remnants held fast to the righteousness of their creed, many Black Shields carried far heavier burdens, knowing their gene-sires and brethren to be the cause of humanity's downfall. It is therefore no mystery as to why the savage nature of the Black Shields proved so emblematic of their struggle. For what is a warrior to fight for when his kin, creed, and master have abandoned them to an ignoble death? Due to the ramshackle nature of such an organization, the term Black Shield is ill-defined at best. Though all warriors of such a military body were hewn from the confines of their legions of old, only their shared hatred of heresy and willingness to suffocate its spreading influence galvanized them into a cohesive fighting force. While loyalist outposts fell back to the safety of Sol, the Black Shields fought on within the thick of traitor lines. For even should their ideals not align with the righteous sons of the Emperor, their disdain for the War Master of Chaos could not be eclipsed. Though some warbands ventured to the far reaches of space to eke out a minor legacy as pirates and raiders, many jet-clad warriors made all haste for Terra, their duty to uphold the last ember of their Sundered Legion's honor, too great to abandon. Even at the eclipse of the Great Heresy, orphans of the Age of Darkness stood upon the walls of the Imperial Palace, the walls of Fort Stranivar, lined with warriors of forgotten deeds who gave their lives for the chance to bloody the traitors one last time. A rare few of their number stripping their Ceramite paint to storm grey as a homage to the era of the Great Crusade, the atavists of the Black Shields, fueled by delusion, continued the Emperor's mission to conquer the stars. Refusing to adhere to the fate of humanity's decline, wrought by the hands of the War Master, such idealistic Black Shields doubtless fell to ruin, with no means to resupply, nor be reinforced by an already harrowed Imperium. Refusing to assimilate into the fold of established Legion battle lines, should they join them as allies in battle. Even when reunited with their Legion survivors, the wounds of the Black Shields had carved too deep to balm. Denouncing their former glorious deeds, many speculate that such a rebellious assemblage of warriors would prove inspiration for the malicious Black Legion of Abaddon the Despoiler, for in these impetuous warriors, an undeniable unity of purpose, regardless of their origins, was found. Each warband led by a Reaver Lord, these former captains and senior officers of the Legiones Astartes relied upon their proven experience, forged from their former toil during the Great Crusade. Burdened as the unwanted patriarchs of a new creed of nihilistic soldiers, these overlords of circumstance defined the paths to which their men would follow, whether into the maws of oblivion or righteous defense of the Imperium. Through charisma or violence, the Reaver Lords could not afford to tolerate dissent within their ranks, their reputations often characterized by uncompromising duty to cut down challenges to their authority. The consuls of dismantled legacies now embarked upon the field of battle as Dark Heralds, such emissaries casting down their totems of old in order to carry aloft new icons of their dour creed. Carrying tattered banners of the Dropside Massacre, desecrated icons of their nemesis, or charred emblems of their past, these phantoms of the Imperium's despoiled history marched alongside their kin as harbingers of doom. Often forming marauder squads, comprised solely of kindred survivors who had endured the depths of hell itself. The bonds shared by these indignant Astartes were more than a match for even the most staunch loyalists, bearing gaudy heraldry and cherished notions of honor. Adopting the tactics favored by their Reaver Lord, combined with the proclivities of each individual Astartes, whether armed with personal weapons of countless campaigns, or those prized from the dead hands of their enemies, the marauder squads took great pains to maintain their arsenal of war gear. Though the motivation of such warbands differed immensely, several shared values helped to bolster their resolve. While some warbands vowed to never sell their brethren's lives needlessly to extend their duty to the eternal vendetta, others believed that only in death does duty end, and to atone for their sins must gladly charge into the most suicidal of advances. Many warbands obscured and removed their former iconography completely, while others retained the panoply of old as a means to find new meaning for their sentimental trappings. Typically adorning their armor with icons of death, these dour Astartes regularly adopted skulls and bones as their hallmarks, alike to the piratical plunderers of Terra's ancient past. Many abandoning both sides of the conflict entirely, dedicating what remained of their lives to selfish personal gain as they pillaged all corners of the galaxy in search for the spoils of victory. While some warbands allowed only Terran veterans into their fold, others relied on kinsmen of their own planet of origin. The ties to their homeworlds emphasizing each battle brother's proclamation that pride is our armor. Other more disorganized warbands eschewing senior officer appointments altogether, their mantra that, in disgrace all are equal, allowed for an egalitarian force of renegades. Sons of specific gene lines, such as the World Eaters, devolved into little more than aimless berserkers, their trauma caused by their betrayal turning them into blood-drenched madmen, fighting an eternity of war, destined to one day fall to the Blood God's influence. Scions of the Gorgon relied on the teachings of their Primarch by upholding the mantra that the flesh is weak, seeking forbidden technologies to unleash on their enemies, with no thought to the humanity they would sacrifice in the process. Orphan sons of the Crimson King unleashed their psychic power with careless abandon, the refutation of the legacy of Nicaea, while empowering their forms, inevitably resulting in rapid mutation and self-destruction. Apothecaries in short supply due to their lack of resources and ties to Imperial outposts, Black Shield warbands resorted to gene cloning to replenish their numbers, the methods of the Broken Helix causing malformed mutations of their aspirants. Resorting to using Xenos weapons when human-crafted armaments could not be recovered, the taint of Xenos, prohibited by the Adepts of Mars, would regardless be necessary for many warbands to continue their fight against heresy. In particularly desperate circumstances, using mortal weapons when all others failed, the sight of hulking giants armed with undersized lasguns and puny-seeming melee weapons regardless reaped a toll on the enemy, especially when underestimating the precise application of such otherwise unworthy armaments for an Angel of Death. Those of Traitor Legion stock, often the smallest warbands in size, due to their Primarch's effectiveness in culling their numbers during the Battle of Istvan Free, often such warriors of the 3rd, 12th, 14th, and 16th Legions banded together, unified by their shared struggle. Though many Black Shields incorporated elements of Traitor Legions, evidence also suggests that on rare occasions, disavowed Astartes of the most noble Space Marine creeds, such as the Ultramarines, Imperial Fists, and Space Wolves, also served within such warbands. Yet due to their proclivity to deface their former heraldry, no estimates can be made to how many existed. Beleaguered by warp exposure when traversing to disparate war zones, lack of war assets, myriad mental scars, and spontaneous mutations, the sight of a Black Shield collapsing from either physical or mental exhaustion was not uncommon. Each warband comprising anywhere between 24 to 2,000 Space Marines. Typically, such organizations bore an average of 500 Astartes, rarely more than infantry deployments due to their scarcity of dreadnought or armored vehicles, or even the means to maintain them. Though untold hundreds of warbands existed, scarcely a handful can be recounted to this day. Their actions made in the thickest of fighting during an age of smothering darkness, making efforts to glean such insight nigh but impossible. Of those which persist to this day, the Ashen Claws are the most infamous, established by thousands of Raven Guard legionaries of mostly Terran descent. Cast out by their Primarch, Corvus Corax, the Ravenlord's disdain for his Astartes drawn from the cradle of humanity prior to his reunion with the Emperor, eke out a harsh existence within the deadly Ghoul Stars region of space. Maintaining a frail alliance with the similarly enigmatic chapter of Space Marines, the Carcharodons, the Ashen Claws trade supplies with the Children of the Voidfather, doubtless procured by unsavory means. The Fangs of the Emperor, under the command of the Goliath World Eater renegade, Endred Ha, remained active during the vast majority of the Horus Heresy, targeting the Warmaster's supply lines and strategic outposts. Numbering 5 line companies comprised of thousands of Astartes, these independent marauders often received support from the Divisio Militaris, with authorization of Malcador the Sigillite in exchange for support for his shadow wars conducted within the heart of traitor territories. Known for their massive casualty rates and uncompromising Riven Hound, their fangs sank deep into the jugular of the Warmaster's advance to Terra, as their procurement of Ordinatus war engines, salvaged armored battalions, and furious ambushes bled the enemy until making their last stand upon Holy Terra itself. The Dark Brotherhood, led by the mysterious Nemean Reaver, operated within the Pale Stars region of space, conducting a grueling war against the Alpha Legion as part of the Warmaster's dark compliance to secure domains for his future empire. Adhering to the commands of the ancient Dark Angels veteran of the 3rd Rangdan Xenocide, regardless of their toil, the intervention of Malcador's Knights Errant removed the Nemean from their leadership position, resulting in their inevitable dissolution. The Third Covenant, bearing the peculiar insignia of a hippocampus, laid siege to the Northern Galactic Core for much of the Great Civil War. Their duty concluded with the death of the Warmaster, allowing them to disperse far from the gaze of Holy Terra. Making great efforts to conceal their origins, each Astartes of the Warband renounced their names of old and adopted esoteric titles in their stead. Investigations suggesting that while loyal to the War Master's cause, on the surface, this warband in truth served powers beyond humanity's control. The Death Eagles, formed entirely of the surviving Emperor's children 34th millennial, fought to defend the revolved keep of the Coronet Deeps from traitor advances, whilst the Company of the Sundered pillaged the stars and, following the end of the Horus Heresy, were declared by the Terran Council as enemies of the Imperium. The Gerasene host, burgeoning their numbers during the Civil War using unsanctioned gene seed hybridization, are believed to have been created to further the deployments of the War Master. Rumored to be a terror weapon, made to compound the traitor war effort through rampant slaughter, their involvement fighting alongside the Emperor's children and Death Guard legions during the Triab World campaign lasted 4 years of warfare against the Salamander's Legion. Retrieved Mark V heresy pattern ceramite of such warriors bearing no evidence of prior heraldic motifs or insignias. None know the significance of the minimalist L sigil, which all such warriors bore. The Nine Blades sought to establish their own petty empire within the Truan system, their actions incurring the wrath of the Council of Terror. Likewise, the Umbral 100 scoured the Chonma sector during 011.M31, seizing by force everything they desired from its 12 star systems. While the last remaining known warbands, known as the True Flame, Desolation Hounds, and Mindblade, leave the barest trace of a legacy, others such as the Brotherhood of Set, Burnt Word, and 12th Truth regardless stood proudly in the defense of the Throne World, pledging their forces to the Solar War. Their lack of support from Imperial authorities, forcing the Black Shields to conduct field modifications of their equipment, no legion by choice would resort to such extreme methods of scavenging or unsanctioned tampering with their armaments. Freed of the constraints imposed by Imperial military doctrine and command oversight, the Black Shields used any and all resources to achieve their objectives. Unorthodox and erratic in nature, Imperial scholars would in time designate such panoplies and war gear as pariah armaments, their easily identifiable, rugged modifications starkly contrasting with more refined and lavish Astartes weapons and armor. Flagrantly infringing on the ordained outlines of the cult Mechanicus, the Black Shield's desperate methods of survival was an affront to all adepts of Mars who bore witness to their construction. Stripping the reactor casings from their backpacks, removing optional components from gauntlet armor, helmets, pauldrons, and motive stabilizers, even should their armor become loud, spark-spitting affronts to the machine god, none within their protective embrace cared, should it not falter in its duty. Rerouting power couplings to crucial operational functions at the cost of dexterity or protection, each Astartes made sacrifices to their panoplies to ensure its continued reliability should they survive the ravages of each battle. Lacking most forms of heavy weaponry, each Astartes removed extraneous fittings from their standard issue bolters to enable easier handling, disabling safety cutoffs from flamers to enable larger trails of promethium to be unleashed, and salvaging traitor armaments festooned with devotions to the ruinous Pantheon, for nothing could be abandoned in their fight against their adversaries. Preferably wielding Xenos extinction carbines of the Crave species and Psycho Mobius claw guns of the Kala Sistrum, the Black Shields willfully ignored the proclamations of the Emperor, whether to aid or harry his Imperium's dominion. Scavenging battleplate from fallen space marines, whether friend or foe in nature, the mishmash panoplies of every Black Shield, replete with pockmarks or missing chunks, would all be subsumed in black to mask their progeny. Typically not retrieving drop pods to reuse for future battles, most warbands cannibalize components from war machines and static defenses rather than attempt to repair them, favoring light, mobile warfare alternatives due to the high cost in time to maintain heavier models. Orchestrating rapid attacks with exfiltration contingents ready to withdraw their forces, no warband of the Black Shields could conduct acts of attritional warfare with any hope of survivability. All extensively using Storm Eagle, Fire Raptor, and Thunderhawk gunships no matter their individual tactics, only the largest warbands benefited from Storburned landers and their immense firepower. Deploying Rhinos and Land Raiders as standard ground vehicles, over time adorning such war machines with heraldry unique to their warband should their notoriety increase. While battles such as the Ashblind of Euros, perpetrated by traitor Ravenguard, wrought over 20 million loyalist civilian deaths, others, such as former Sons of Horus, sacrificed their lives to unleash end-dimensional weapons against their former kin within the vaults of Yturbia. Death Guard fought Death Guard during the assault of Tarakanus, within the bowels of the heavy cruiser Morbid Revelation. while at the Battle of Ultinian Rings, strike Centurion Morkan Sale of the 19th fought the Hunter-Slayers of Tybalt Mar. To account every deed of the Black Shields nonetheless is doomed to fail, for the majority of their deeds have been lost to time, and the names of their bravest and most terrible exemplars long departed from the realm of the living. For while some warbands still remain, they are the few that have escaped extinction. For only pirates and miscreants still hold fast to such a title with the conclusion of the Great Scouring of the Traitor Rebellion. Yet from such tragic circumstance, many still held true to their oaths to the Emperor, and of all such Black Shields, especially of Traitor Legion stock, a small fragment of honor for their tarnished legacy was reclaimed.
If they come, I shall stand. If they fight me, I will not yield. Even should they slay me, I swear that even should it contravene all that is worthy and all that is true, I shall return from whatever pit constrains me, and I shall fight them anew, until every one of them I drag into that pit with me.
This has been a tale of the Great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. Though the legacy of Black Shields remains to this day within the ranks of the Death Watch, its meaning has much changed, for those who first donned the Obsidian are a far cry from their modern interpretation. While many renegades of the Great Heresy remain stalwart in the defense of the Imperium, it was not by any means uncommon for their contemporaries to side with the enemy or oppress the innocent as a result of their lack of moral character. Independence is neither a boon nor a curse, for freedom without resource is destined to destitution, and blind allegiance to powerful benefactors, while often prosperous, regardless constrains you to immorality or mundanity. Sure to seek allies, holdfasts, and knowledge to stay the course, for unfettered autonomy often leads to a life of aimless wandering with no clear objective in mind. So plot your course, follow it true, and should insight point to a new horizon, be courageous in venturing to pastures new, ready to face the challenges ahead.